Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura and I have been on a keto turned carnivore diet for almost 4 years, which is even surprising for me to say. I lost 120 pounds my first year and then have spent the last 3 years just really trying to figure out how to keep it off. Before this, I'm always somebody that was able to go on a diet, whatever the new fad thing was at the moment, lose 20 pounds, and then I needed to reward myself with a cheat day and I ended up gaining it all back again. Somehow this magic of being on a carnivore diet has left me healthier and happier and more satisfied and able to maintain this and really dive into my root causes with food and how to maintain this weight loss and my health moving forward. In this video, I really just want to give you a recap of that. It's kind of been a while since I've explained my full journey, so I'll do the Cliff Notes version of like how I lost the weight, and then we're going to talk about like what I'm doing now and how I'm eating and how things are going for me. So stick around. So going back to my highest weight, I topped out at 263 pounds, and that was in 2018. My son, my second child, was turning 2 years old, and I realized I weighed more then than I did with him when I went into labor, which was kind of like a wake-up call for me. And so, I'd always been heavier. I gained 30 pounds in college when I moved in across the street from a Taco Bell, and kind of that started the trajectory of my go on a diet and lose 20 pounds and then gain everything back again. So I was always good at temporary solutions or temporary diets. Doing something for 30 days, I could totally do that. But then once I lost that 20 pounds, that seemed to be like the magic number where I felt like I deserved a cheat day. I would get off track, go off the rails, and I was never able to get back on track after that again. And I tried everything. I tried Weight Watchers. I tried low carb previously. I even thought I went vegan for a while. I watched the movie Forks Over Knives and just assumed that like, oh, this is how I can lose weight. And it was really more for a weight loss perspective for me. And I did lose weight, but my hair also started falling out and I was hungry all the time. And the meal prep involved with like trying to eat vegan was insane, or just how many times a day I was supposed to eat. Nothing was ever really felt sustainable for me. And so, I'm somebody who just at my worst was eating a pure fast food / gas station food diet. I worked out of the home, so I would eat Chick-fil-A for breakfast and I would go to work, stop at a gas station and buy all the snacks that I was going to eat for the day. I would go out to a lunch with coworkers. I needed my 2 o'clock in the afternoon snacks. I would come home and have some kind of big carby dinner with my husband and our kids in the evenings. And then after the kids went to bed, it was the pint of ice cream on the couch time. Like really, I can't even imagine how many calories that was over the course of a day. At 263 pounds, I'm 5'8". I was having knee issues. I ended up having a knee surgery for a torn meniscus, which is just simply because of the weight that my body was carrying. I had had back surgeries. I had ruptured discs. I was having disc degeneration. I was dealing with gallstones. I was dealing with a lot of digestion issues. I have a whole video where we talk in great detail about hemorrhoids. And so if you're really interested, you can go listen to that one. I was starting to see a specialist for some of that hemorrhoid repair. I was dealing with somebody on my gallstones that I was having. I was talking about thyroid levels to my gynecologist. Really just somehow I seemed like I was in the doctor's office every other week. And at that time, I really just decided I have to start another diet. I would have a cheat day on a Friday night, which would lead to me then justifying cheating all weekend. And then I would try to start over again on Monday, but I felt so terrible that I would get off track. And then I would wait till whenever the next first of the month was, or after the next holiday. Like I was so good at coming up with reasons on why I needed to wait. And then that period of time between I'm on a diet versus I'm going to start a diet, the amount of binging that I really would do, or just like consuming as much food as possible. Like somehow if I eat all these foods one more time, then I'll be successful. Actually, in January of 2018, I started a keto diet because that's kind of what everybody was doing at the time. And I was good for all of January. End of January was my daughter's birthday. Completely fell off the wagon again. And it took me all the way until March, when I realized that it was a month before my son's birthday and I weighed more than I did when I went into labor with him. And so March 12th, I started a keto diet again and just stopped quitting. I started to piece together all the things that I had learned previously. And then I found the carnivore diet And it really helped me kind of string all of these things together. And with keto, I was doing meat, vegetables, salads, a lot of Quest bars, low carb tortillas, and I lost weight the first month. And then over time, I realized I had to cut out the Quest bars so that I could continue losing. Like every time I stalled, I would cut things out. And I also think the biggest key difference this time was that I started learning about the different things. You know, keto was so popular that all of a sudden there was experts that were coming out and talking about it. There was podcasts that you could listen to. There was books you could read about. And so I started listening to experts talking about intermittent fasting and people's talking about what insulin resistance is. And I went back and looked at my numbers and realized I was pre-diabetic, and no doctor had ever told me that. My numbers absolutely were borderline between pre-diabetic and diabetic. And every time I went and had blood work done, the doctors were just said, like, you're within the normal range. It's fine. Come back in a year. Really understanding what was happening to my body in my early 30s was terrifying. And the path that I was on, and that, you know, my mother was type 2 diabetic and my grandmother was type 2 diabetic, and both of them had it happen later in life. But I was likely going to be in my mid 30s and end up type 2 diabetic and experiencing all these problems. And it wasn't the genetics, it was because of my lifestyle. And that was a really big moment for me. So digging into the understanding and really absorbing as much information as I could made a difference. And so over time, you know, I cut out the nuts, I cut out the keto treats, I started adding intermittent fasting. I went down to eating 2 meals a day pretty quickly, and that was key. When I started eating a lot of meat and a lot of really good nutrient dense food, I realized I wasn't as hungry. And so, you know, over that first year, I did a lot of fasting. Over time, I went down to 1 meal a day. And for somebody who was used to eating like a full pizza and a pint of ice cream in one sitting, I really enjoyed eating one meal because I could feel really full. And then I didn't have to worry about food for 24 hours. Once I start eating, I sometimes feel like I can't stop eating. And so being able to eat a lot in one sitting was really helpful for me in the beginning. And I think that, along with the extreme low carb, you know, along the way I found out about the carnivore diet. I cut out the vegetables. I didn't realize how terrible like something like a salad was making me feel until I cut it out. And it really cleared up my digestion. I was losing weight before, but it wasn't until I cut those things out that the digestion felt better. My skin started clearing up. You know, things like the keto sweeteners and the keto treats, and those things really caused me a lot of digestive issues and a lot of skin issues, and mentally just really increased the cravings and just kind of make me want the real stuff. So staying away from all of that has been really beneficial. So finding a carnivore diet, I spent then the next year or so eating 1 meal a day and then incorporating longer fasts. For me, using something like a 48-hour fast was really beneficial. I have a video where I dig really in depth on fasting if you want to see like what I was doing back then and how I've leveraged fasting. The reason why I enjoyed the fasting is because I don't have to track macros and I don't have to really worry about how much I'm eating in a day. Because as much as we, you know, want to say like you do have to be aware of that, your two options with continuing to lose weight, the longer that you're on this, if you're hitting a stall, is to eat less. Or for me, it's about leveraging fasting, and I would be able to incorporate that and not really have to worry so much. And I could just eat the meat that I wanted and eat as much as I wanted in one sitting. And then I could use fasting as a lever for that. So I really enjoyed that process. So the weight was really lost in 2018. And then through 2019, I was really working to maintain it. I never really started exercising until 2019. I was looking to tone, kind of drop the last little bit of weight that I had. And so that's really what happened for the next year. Over the course of that year, it was pretty smooth sailing. I did then start adding more. I realized that I couldn't eat as much volume in one sitting anymore. And so I started eating 2 meals a day more often. I had to do some troubleshooting. I spent too long exercising and doing beef only and fasting and needed, I think sometimes too, we start losing weight and we don't know how to stop losing the weight. And that definitely happened to me, where at one point I got too thin. And then trying to mentally convince myself to gain weight again, and then also not gain too much weight. Like this concept I didn't understand of like, how do you stop losing weight? Right around the same time when I was really diving into that and struggling was when 2020 happened. And we all know what happened in 2020. And like so many people, I dealt with this, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to stay home all the time. And I think the access to food 24/7 really was difficult for me. And I wasn't expecting to struggle as much as I did. And I think that was the biggest wake up call for me, that I had deeper issues with food, that I was using food for comfort, for boredom, that I don't have to be hungry to eat. I can eat anytime I want and I don't have to be hungry. And it was a big moment for me to realize that I needed to address some of those things, and the, constant mindless eating wasn't healthy. I gained weight, too much weight in 2020, and trying to figure out how to regulate that. 2021 for me, the goal was consistency. I was trying to just stay on track, to focus on what I knew made me feel best, to not really stress about the weight, to try to see where my body wanted to naturally be. I really spent most of the year eating 2 meals a day. I was home a lot. About halfway through 2021, I took a job that now requires me to travel almost full time. I'm on the road a couple days every single week, which was a big learning curve, as I was used to traveling some when I was losing weight, but just to get back into that routine now of like trying to maintain 1 or 2 meals a day with a carnivore diet, and then being on the road full time. So that was a challenge, and definitely wasn't perfect throughout the entire year. But when I look at the year as a whole, the fact that I started and ended the year the same weight is just shocking to me. I think that's pretty much the first time that that's ever happened in my life, because I've always had these massive weight swings year over year. And then now, as we move into 2022, what does my life look like now? I'm on the road quite a bit. I'm home with the family. My husband is still carnivore. He's been carnivore with me for almost 4 years as well. And our kids eat a very low carb, meat-based diet. My life today consists of eating 1 to 2 meals a day. I still am struggling with what does that normal, healthy, maintainable weight look like for me? And I fluctuate still probably within about 20 pounds. And I'm trying to find out like where I feel best healthy wise, not focus so much on aesthetics, but just find out where my body works best and where I'm healthiest. I did go through a spot of hair loss back in 2019 and 2018 as I was losing that massive amount of weight. And so my hair now is grown back thick and strong. It's kind of like all back healthy again. I've spent time really, seeing the benefits in my skin, in my body, in my hair, and how healthy I am. The loose skin question always comes up, and like, it's there. It's not going anywhere. I know people talk about autophagy and like time and fasting. I've done all the fasting. I've done all the time. Like, I don't know how much more time has to be, but I think the fear of ending up with loose skin as a way of not wanting to lose weight is just fear putting itself into a place where you don't want to commit to something in the first place. So now I have loose skin, and it is what it is. Who knows what will happen in the future if I'm consistent. From a food perspective, I typically eat 1 or 2 meals a day. I'm doing a lot less fasting than I used to. My biggest goal and where I feel best is if I'm doing 0 snacking. I cannot graze, I cannot snack. The cravings come back, and the mindless eating comes back the minute I start eating outside my meal window. I could eat all day long. No, steaks don't even sound good anymore if I've been munching all morning. I really have to keep myself in check with making sure I'm eating 1 or 2 meals a day. Whether I eat 1 or 2 meals really just depends on my access to food, how much I can eat. If I can eat a big ribeye that's lots of butter and some extra fat, 1 meal would be plenty for me for the day. But yesterday I had some chicken and for lunch, and so obviously that's not going to be enough food for me, and I need to make sure that I'm eating a second meal, or I know I'll be hungry. And if I'm hungry, then the late night snacking desires come in and the cravings come in, and you're watching TV late at night and everything that's on a commercial just looks really delicious, and it's hard to resist when you're feeling hangry. On Instagram, I've been sharing a lot more meal ideas and recipes, and I've been enjoying a lot more variety. And maybe that's just because I'm kind of looking to change things up. Or also it's just the beef prices are higher, so I can't afford to eat a ribeye every day, and I'm enjoying having things like pork and chicken as long as I'm cooking them in a different way. I think I've been eating so many chicken wings lately, and pork loin and pork tenderloin with making these little air fried pork nuggets, that it's really been a good change for me. And I feel like I'm in an entirely different place now with how I'm eating than I was before. I feel like I'm kind of back to living a normal life. Like, maybe it's taken me almost 4 years, but like, I'm just a person who works full time and is a full-time mom and is out enjoying my life. And I also happen to only eat meat. Like, the shift of needing this to be the number one thing that I think about all day long was necessary for probably the first 3 years, because I couldn't stay on track if this wasn't my number one focus and priority. And now I feel like it's just becoming more of the life that I live and the lifestyle that I'm in, and not something that I have to like make as this mental tax on me all day long. And so I hope that, you know, that hopefully gives you some hope and health in the future. I think sometimes the way that people approach carnivore diet on the internet is way too complicated and just gets really confusing for people when we worry so much about macros and all these different ways to optimize the diet. There are people who are healing some major, crazy, hard autoimmune issues and just like health issues that need to focus on something like going 100% strict beef, salt, and water for a period of time, and then adding foods back in so you understand how it affects you. A lot of people, though, are just like myself, where we ended up in this really terrible place, like eating standard American food. And I needed to lose weight and get my health back on track. And so to do that, you know, I can eat regular bacon from the grocery store. It says 0 carbs, but in the ingredients, it says sugar. For me, that's something that's fine, because I'm really just focusing on something like the carb content. And I feel the same way about spices, where I look for key things. I look for something that the main ingredients are not sugar, but I'm really able to enjoy now a variety of spices, even things like sugar-free barbecue sauces I enjoy more recently. And it's something where I feel like I can live my life a little more relaxed. But I do know the key things now that are triggering to me. And it's things like the keto sweets and the keto chocolate and the nuts are not going to come back into my life. But something like spices and sugar-free sauces are not going to affect me negatively. I think that the majority of people who've been doing this eating for a long time find themselves in that 90% carnivore range and are perfectly happy and healthy with that. Sometimes putting so much pressure on yourself from the beginning makes this feel like too big of a task. I would not have made it to this point if I wasn't able to have Diet Coke. I needed that like half frozen slushy Diet Coke at night sitting on the couch to break my daily ice cream pint addiction. And there's things that I can use like that were a really amazing bridge for me. Something like sugar-free gum after my meal helped me break that dessert craving. And then over time I realized I didn't want the gum anymore. I didn't want the slushy Diet Coke at night anymore. And I was able just to find like, what am I comfortable having occasionally and what is causing me to trigger and to not be okay. But sometimes putting all of that pressure on yourself for somebody like myself would just have me feeling overwhelmed and giving up and moving on. And I think that's my last tip, is just kind of focus on today and temporary. Future you is so much more capable of handling struggles. And even that drive home sometimes, that 30-minute commute that I have where my body's like, hey, what's going on? What kind of food around here can I have? It's saying like, not today, you're fine. You got meat at home. We have stuff at home. We're going to plan ahead. Tomorrow you can deal with that. Next time you can deal with that. And really pushing through and focusing on like eating what I love. And I think that's another reason why carnivore has been so great for me, is that I can eat such delicious food and then my body feels satisfied and I'm able to just not feel like I'm restricted all the time. I have lots of videos on this channel where you can see what I'm eating, meal examples from different times in my journey. Times when I was really trying to lose weight from the weight that I gained in 2020. Times when I was sticking to 1 meal a day and exercising. And then also more recently when I was doing 2 meals a day. Lots of videos coming soon about what I eat at restaurants, just because that's a lot of what I'm doing right now as I travel. So I hope those are helpful. Let me know down below, like, what are some other foods that you incorporate that's not meat? Are you in that 90% carnivore range? And then what other types of videos would you like to see from me? But I promise it's going to be more often now. So thank you so much for all your support. And it's meant a lot and it's helped me stay on track, to be honest. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.